to the Dealer to Healer podcast. It's been a little while since we've put a podcast together, but I've had the blessing of basically being offered the opportunity to interview a Kadampa Buddhist. She has been working with Kadampa for 20 years?
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
Teaching for Kadampa for 18 years. And I'm just really kind of interested in the journey, interested in giving the viewers more information on the Kadampa path of Buddhism, getting into the history a little bit, and then getting into, well, I'll introduce you first. This is Ben Lhachog.
Ben Lhachog, yeah.
Ben Lhachog.
Don't worry.
This is Ben Lhachog. I'm so bad at foreign names. I know it's not foreign, but Ben Lhachog. I remember when I went to university and there was like all these names that I'd never heard before that took me about 2 years to pronounce. I was just giving people names like Dave and Jeff.
I honestly, I'm very relaxed about it because, you know, it really doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter.
No, people are trying. There's this thing at the moment, isn't there, with like, people getting offended by not being able to pronounce someone's name properly, and it's like, there's more things, you know, worse things to be offended about. People are making an effort, people are trying. So I'm really excited, really happy and pleased to have you on the show.
Thank you
for coming.
Thank you as well.
I think the way we'll start is just tell us a little bit about yourself, really, like how long you've been practicing, how long you've been teaching, what your role is in Kadampa.
Okay.
The basics.
Okay. Well, I first met Kadampa Buddhism, these teachings. Well, I was doing lots of different things in the mid-90s because I was trying to deal with stress. So doing lots of things in the mid-90s, and then I just came across a class, a poster in a library, went along to a class, and found it very interesting, even though I hadn't really got a clue what it was about, because it was quite an in-depth class that I went to. And so I just started going along, and it was helping me. It was helping me to deal with my stress and to relax. And so I just started learning more and more about Kadampa Buddhism and the teachings, reading the books, going to the classes. And I just gradually found more and more interest in the depth of the teachings and the practices. And then I just decided one time I'd go to a festival, because we have these big festivals up at Manjushri Centre in Ulverston with thousands of people. So I decided to go along to one. And I always remember thinking, because I was a bit wary. I don't know, like religion and any kind of, I've always been a bit wary of, I don't know, am I going to be drawn into something that I don't have control of? And
I think there's like a voice in the back of the head which is from society and parents that's going, you've got to join a cult. They're
exactly,
gonna get you.
Exactly. And I think that was it. And also just that feeling of, just is it going to be fun? Is it going to be enjoyable? Is it going to be something that I can enjoy? And so I went to this festival, and my whole view was, if it's my choice, which dealt with that voice, if it's my choice and it's fun, like I don't have to give everything up. That idea that it means I have to give anything up that I enjoy. As long as it's fun and as long as it's my choice, then I'd be interested to learn more, and it definitely was. It was definitely that. And so I just started going to more classes. Then I decided to move into Manjushri Centre. Then I got offered a role there, so I started being a bit more involved, and then working outside as well. And it was just it was just a natural path for me and a natural journey to just gradually get more involved, and then suddenly feel like I just wanted to get ordained as a Buddhist nun. I wanted, and that was completely, looking back, that would have been very bizarre. But by the time I got there, it was just I'd followed what I wanted to do, So then I got ordained, and as soon as I got ordained as a Buddhist nun, I was asked to go and teach. So I was already teaching. I'd been teaching for years before I got ordained, but I just was asked to go and teach, and I went to Carlisle, taught there for a couple of years, and then I was asked to come to Manchester. Right. So I've been here over 10 years now. Oh, wow. And I love it. Yeah, I love it. It's a beautiful city, and Chorlton, where one of our centres is, the main centre's here in Chorlton, and we have a centre in the city as well. It's just such a beautiful place. And and continuing with that journey, I'm constantly learning about the teachings and the methods and daily life, because these teachings, they're very much about people's daily life, you know. Members of anyone can come. Anyone can come to a teach. So we have
any religion, sect,
any religion, anyone. Everybody is completely welcome, and it's wonderful to see how people come along and they take what they want from a class. It's like there's not a set, you have to want to do it, you have to be like this, you have to be like that. People can come along to a class, and the first thing I try and say is, you find what you connect with in this class. Don't try and feel like you've got to take everything. Just take something that is going to help you in your daily life, and is going to help you to deal with difficulties, challenges. And it's just wonderful to hear how people, they benefit from it. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely an advocate of that. It had a really positive, some of the teachings had a really positive impact on my life, and I actually write about the experience in my book, because it's, you know, you have these pivotal teachings when you start kind of wanting to change your life in a positive way, like struggling from stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it may be. And it was at the Manjushri. Is it Manjushri?
Manjushri, yeah.
Manjushri. Manjushri, when I went to, it was just like a beginner's introduction to Buddhism.
Yeah.
And it just, I'll probably talk a bit more about that in a little bit, but I would just, kind of the history of Kadampa, where Kadampa comes from, its founder, and I guess when you're kind of telling us about that, it'll probably pull us towards what drew you to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, it's interesting, because like I was saying, in the mid-90s, I'd left my job and I'd gone travelling, and I was trying to find a way to deal with what I was going through, what I was experiencing, the stress, and I had anxiety, and I tried many different avenues for me of different practices and paths. And the one thing that I found for me, and it's different for everyone, you know, that's another thing, everyone's got to find their way. For me, with Kadampa Buddhism, what I found was a complete path to freedom from permanent suffering and pure and lasting happiness. And that was something, I think, I'd tried a few things that for me I'd got real benefit from. But then I'd been left with a little bit of a, but what then? Yeah. You know, but what else? Because it felt like some of the things that I got some benefit from, it was like it was short benefit for a short time, but then there wasn't the sort of, now in your daily life, what you should hold, what you should focus on, what you should develop in terms of letting go of negative attitudes, developing positive attitudes. So for me with Kadampa Buddhism, I found that, and it linked into a lot of things I think that I'd been aware of for a long time that I hadn't really sort of thought so much about, like death, you know, and like how actions that I engage in and actions that I've engaged in affect me now, and previous lives. For me, there'd always been something there about that as well, the connection and the relationship, and then finding that it came down to, in your daily life, if you get angry about something, the reason you're getting angry is because you're not getting what you want, or having to put up with something you don't like. And looking at that and thinking, oh, it's about me. It's like I'm getting angry and I'm blaming, and it's their fault and it's this. But actually, if I really look honestly at myself, it's just because I'm not getting what I want, or having to put up with something I don't want. And so if I can practice patient acceptance, so that became a big practice for me when I lived at Manjushri Centre, learning to practice patient acceptance and finding that a lot of my anxiety and a lot of my stress were coming because I wasn't accepting that life isn't what I thought it was meant to be, and that I wasn't going to find those things that somehow I'd sort of felt should just be given, that my life should be like this and it should be like that. And for me, I found all those answers in Kadampa Buddhism. And then, I mean, you said about the founder of the tradition, and for me, I just, at one point, I'd always felt like I can do this on my own, you know. I can do this. It's like my spiritual path. I've got this. This is my spiritual path, and you know, no one needs to tell me what to do, and I'll just take bits of what I want. And I think one day actually I walked into the temple at Manjushri Centre. I mean, you know, the temple there. It's just, I walked into the temple, and it's such a special place. And now, I mean, everybody goes there just as tourists as well. And I just felt I need a spiritual guide. It's like it just felt I need a teacher who I can connect with in my heart. And I was very fortunate because at that time I could still go to he doesn't teach now, but I could still go to his teachings when he was, I mean, it's all his teachings.
What's his name?
Oh, sorry, Venerable Geshe Kelsang Gyatso Rinpoche. So it's just there. So we often. Sorry?
A card of him in my wallet.
Yeah. And I find I've got a picture of him on my phone, and I just find it is just a sense of, I can always, if I turn and look at him, you know, like I know a lot of people who, pictures of him, if I just look at him, I feel that connection, you know, and it feels like a connection that is always there, you know. So I've always got a picture of him, and it's not something that before I would have thought of or been interested in, but for me, just recognizing that there's something very special that is actually beyond our normal way of thinking. We think of a connection with someone between like someone you spend time with physically, but actually through his books, through his centres, and there's just that heartfelt connection that I've seen with people in my family as well. You know, it's like my dad, he was never into Buddhism, and at one point he did wonder what had happened to me. But he slowly, he just saw I was happy. And he made a connection with we call him Geshe. He made a connection with Geshe as well, and came along to one of his teachings, and he loved the temple. And so I feel like something special there about a connection with someone who is helping you on a deeper level than just day-to-day temporary, ordinary happiness, is actually trying to lead you to discover and develop your own inner peace and your own inner wisdom. And I think that's quite rare. It feels for me.
I've heard people talk about that, and it's like even it's not particularly somebody that's passed, but somebody that's alive, that they feel that they're guiding them in spirit at the same time as being alive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
In a positive way.
Yeah. And Geshe, I mean, he's alive now, and we still have contact with him, and he's still, you get messages from him and things through emails and stuff, and just that special connection. And I think it comes also from because you were asking about the history of the tradition, and the teachings from this tradition are timeless. So one thing that's very clear to me, that I understood from one of Geshe-la's books, Joyful Path of Good Fortune, is that you have to check a spiritual guide is qualified. You have to find a fully qualified spiritual guide and a fully qualified path, and become a fully qualified disciple. I'm still working on that. Fully qualified student, And so you check for yourself, and you don't rush with that. No one can tell us who is our spiritual guide, and we have to find that for ourselves. And with this tradition, it's the lineage is obviously is with the teachings from Buddha Shakyamuni, and then in the 8th, 9th century there was a meditation master called Atisha, and Atisha took Buddha's teachings and developed a presentation called The Stages of the Path, or Light for the Lamp for the Light to Enlightenment. It's like the stages of the path. And the union of Buddha's teachings and this special presentation is what is Kadam. So Ka means Buddha's teachings, and Dam means this special presentation. So those who practice this union are called Kadampas. But then in the 14th century, a teacher appeared called Geshe in Tibet, and he brought together the union of Buddha's sutra teachings and tantric teachings, where people might not know what this means, but we can learn about it. And the union of these two, those who practice these, they became known as the new Kadampas. So this is the tradition we follow. And then this lineage of teachings has been passed down in an unbroken lineage, not just of words, but of experience. So the teacher has to gain the experience and then passes that experience on, down to a teacher called Chebabom Karpa, and then Trijang Rinpoche. And Trijang Rinpoche was Geshe-la's spiritual guide, and then he's passed the tradition to him, and now he's passing the tradition to the people of this modern world.
So it was Geshe-la the first person who took it out of Tibet to the West, in that tradition.
In this, I don't know a lot about his journey, but I know obviously left Tibet and was in India, and then at that time there was a group. I think they'd been to India, and then they came back, and they wanted to develop something, so they found Manjushri, this old house that had been a miner's convalescent home and had been derelict for 5 years, and they found it, and they started doing it up, and they started inviting teachers from India, and Geshe Kelsang Gyatso was invited, and he came over, and I think he just formed a connection with the students there, and so they asked him to stay and be the teacher, and he accepted. So then he stayed, and then there was a very clear understanding that the teachings as they'd been presented in Tibet and India, that really weren't so accessible for us in this country, in this world. So I think through discussion with his spiritual guide, he understood he had permission to present the teachings differently, never change the content, because they come from an unbroken lineage, but to present the teachings for the people of this modern world.
Who were running around like crazy people.
Yeah.
8 hours a day. 10 hours a day.
And the wonderful thing is that I love is like our main teacher at the moment, again, the Dekhion, she's a Buddhist nun, she's our main teacher, in the tradition. And one thing I love that she says is that the busier your life, the more you can practice these teachings. It's not to practice, you don't have to go off. I mean, it's good to take time out, as we know, don't we? It's like you saying, you know, going to Manjushri Centre, but we don't have to. These methods, they're designed perfectly for our daily experience, you know. Yeah.
I guess when you're learning the teachings, to practice them when you've got a busy life and you're coming across these situations more often because you're out and about and you're doing crazy things, that the teachings are then being more kind of solidified in you, because you're going, because I remember when I went, I'd be going into situations, be like, shouldn't I have that? That's my choice. Someone else hasn't done that to me. I've chose to react to the way that I'm reacting in this situation. They haven't made me react like that.
That's a really good way to put it. It's just like that. I think that's it, isn't it? It's like it's solidified through the fact that it's your own experience. It's not that you've heard something and then you're trying to fit your life into that. It's almost like you've heard something and now you're trying to bring that into your life. You know, it's like you're trying to bring that understanding, those teachings, and connect them with your own life. And that I think it's we would say a quick path to enlightenment, because it's a quick path to purifying our mind and removing our suffering, because we're starting to understand it's my choice. It's my choice how I react to something or how I deal with something, and happiness is my experience. It's a feeling in my mind. It's my state of mind. It's not someone else. And gradually starting to see, actually, I mean, this is hard to say for some people at first, but someone can't make me unhappy. It's like I become unhappy because I'm not getting what I want, or it's not what I want, or I'm having to put up with. But the actual experience of that unpleasant feeling is something that can only arise within my own mind. And like you're saying, it's like that's something I have a choice. It doesn't feel like we have a choice right now, because we don't have a choice for as long as we can't see. But when we start to develop wisdom that recognizes my problem is my unpleasant feelings, my problem is that I have negative attitudes or negative states of mind such as anger, uncontrolled desire, jealousy. So they're things I can remove from my mind.
That was the biggest teaching for me when I went there. It was the realization. It was like 10 stone just came off my shoulders when the guy was teaching, and he was like, I can't remember the teacher's name, but he said that nobody's ever made you angry in your life. And I was like, idiot, what a dickhead. What? Loads of people make me angry. I was like, this guy's an idiot. And then he explained it a bit more, and he was like, no, but I was still agitated and angry. I'd always been angry little boy, angry young man, my mum said I was. At everything, at government, at the train, at the bus being late, at my dad, at people's behaviours, people dropping litter. My anger actually would spill out to be worse than they're dropping litter. So, and then he was kind of went a bit deeper into the teaching, and he was like, you've any situation in your life and you feel like someone has made you angry, that's been your choice to react that way to that situation. And when it explained it and it hit home, I was just like, oh my God, why someone not told me this like 15 years ago? Life would have been amazing.
Definitely.
But teachings come, it probably wouldn't have hit home any other time in my life. It needed to be at that point. But it just changed my life. It was like I just got rid of anger. Some things still come up now and again, but the main, how angry I was, how aggressive I was, it just pretty much overnight disappeared. And it was like such a humbling, beautiful experience, and I'll always be grateful and in gratitude for whoever that teacher was, but mainly for the Kadampa path, for that just one simple thing that changed my life.
Yeah, and it is that, isn't it? That it can have such a deep impact in, and not necessarily that the first thing that person you think, oh yeah, because sometimes it can feel like we're trying to say things to make others feel good, so that they'll keep coming back, but one thing I find with Geshe is he just tells it how it is. He sticks to the very essence, truth of Buddha's teachings, and therefore it's not always easy to hear, but then medicine isn't always taste nice when you first take it. So it's that thing, it's like, yeah, actually, this makes me feel a bit, but then when we work through it, we realise actually it's because it's the truth, and as soon as that hits, I remember that as well when I lived at Manjushri Centre. I remember a situation where I'd been learning, and then I had this connection with someone I worked with, and they get very angry with me, just because they were angry about people aren't doing things right, things aren't going right, and I seemed to get, and I didn't deal with it very well. I'd get angry back, or I'd just try and hide away from them. And I just remember one day I saw them coming down the corridor, and I'm like, oh, here we go. I can tell by his walk that he's not happy. And he started talking loudly and started shouting, and he was quite angry. And nothing happened in me. Nothing, it was almost like it was a bit weird. It's like, this is where I normally get angry, or I normally walk away. And it didn't happen, and then I suddenly realised the reason he was talking louder and louder and getting quite annoyed was because he wasn't feeling heard. Because of course when someone gets angry, first thing I do is switch off to them. But because I wasn't feeling that way, I was just listening to him, and I started answering what he was saying, even though he was, and you could feel, it just took the energy out, of his anger. It's like taking stop fanning the fire of his anger. And after that relationship completely changed. So then you start to see, this isn't just about me. If I stop relating to these negative qualities of my mind, because not forcing myself, but because I start to realise, oh, actually, I have choice, then actually that impacts on other people as well, and it helps them to begin to change. And I think for me that became a really powerful part of it as well, is that it's about all of us. It's about all of us, and I've got this thing at the moment that with everything that's happening, and I think something you were just saying there, I've got this real thing at the moment about that we've got to stop blaming other people. And it's something I feel quite strong about, and because it's Buddha's teachings, a big part of Buddha's teachings, but it's just not making us happy. It's not solving our problem. When we get angry, there's a question that a teacher in one of Geshe-la's books, Ocean of Nectar, a teacher called Geshe Kelsang, and he asks this question, and I find it really incredible that he says, can anger undo what was done? Yeah. So like when we get angry, normally it's because it's not going how we want, it's like, can anger undo what was done? And it's like, it can't. It doesn't mean things don't need to change, but anger is not the solution. In fact, anger is perpetuating the problem. So I just feel like this sense of learning about these methods and these teachings, starting to recognize actually we've got to stop blaming others for the fact that we're suffering, and not blame ourselves, but start to recognize actually it's my negative attitudes that are to blame, and
that I'm in control of my reaction, because I guess a lot of the teachings is to try and be non-reactive, and especially not have a reaction that's anger. Have a reaction that's kind of like has an equilibrium about it. It's kind of level-headed, because when I'm coming at it from anger, I'm just going to perpetuate more anger. Like you were saying, you know, the levels. If you then something bad happens that would potentially usually make you get to this heightened state, to bring it back in and to be able to deal with the situation, you know, with a more kind of expansive overview of what actually is going on and what actually has happened, rather than react.
And also like involved in it. So sort of like you say, you've got more space because you've got more mental space. And either you can work with patient acceptance, or you can work with cherishing others. So, I mean, obviously in Buddha's teachings we come down to a level that everybody just wishes to be happy and free from suffering. And just that basically we're all the same. It's like our minds are like the sky, and our negative states of mind, our delusions, our uncontrolled desire, our anger, everything that makes us unhappy and peaceful are like clouds, and we can get rid of those negative states. That nobody is intrinsically bad. We're just all living beings who have uncontrolled minds, you know.
Is that a bad analogy for Manchester, because we've always got
Oh
clouds?
God, we've all got no.
Your students must be a nightmare.
No, I know that's the cloudy sky.
I guess it's not even clouds, it's just grey.
It's just grey.
Sky.
It's just grey sky. One thing that's really good for is recognising that no matter how cloudy our mind is, you know, you never think the sky's not there. It's like if you got in a plane, I always use this example, if you got in a plane and you travelled up through the clouds, you would come out into the blue expanse of the sky. It's there. We never think that the clouds have destroyed the sky. So our mind is by nature a pure expanse, but it's just covered by the clouds, like Manchester.
It's the fog.
You know, when I first, because I'm from the Lake District, I'm from Cumbria, and when I first got asked to come to Manchester, of course, someone said to me, you know, it rains a lot in Manchester. And I remember saying to them, you know, I come from the Lake District, you know, come on, I come from the Lake District. So I'm here to tell you, it rains a lot in Manchester. I couldn't believe it. I think it just, very sudden downpours. Lots of discarded umbrellas, I see.
We've had a great, since March, the weather's been fantastic. I haven't really asked for anything better. It's been beautiful.
It has.
But yeah, I think a lot of Manchester's qualities come from the environment, come from the weather, you know, the creativity, the music, the arts, Cholton. It's just like this melting pot of spirituality, of culture, of modernness, of antiques, kind of different, just so many different things going on in this one little town.
And I love Manchester. I think it's just so inclusive, and I just find Manchester. I just love the attitude here. I love the fact that I can be on a tram or walking down the street, and anyone can. I remember sitting in St Anne's Square once, and you just can chat with anyone. And also I just love that I just love the heart. I mean, I remember when the bomb happened a few years ago, and I was in the city on that evening at teaching in the centre there, and I remember going to the vigil night or 2 nights after, and it just was incredible, just that poem and just the sense of don't look back in anger, choose love. And I think for me it just, I don't know, just sort of that sense of, it made me connect with the teachings that I'm studying and practising in Kadampa Buddhism, and our own daily attitudes or ways of being or ways of life are completely in sync, not different. You know, there's no difference between what I understand in Kadam Dharma and in daily life. It's like when I look around, I can see the teachings and the methods everywhere, and it's just about connecting and relating to them more. But yeah, I just love that about Manchester. It's just a great.
And so how do you
place.
feel that people should or could connect more deeply with the Kadampa teachings?
Oh, good question. I think obviously come along to a class. Come along and find out more, and everybody's welcome. I think just reading a little bit. I mean, this book, How to Transform Your Life, you can actually download it as a free ebook at howtotyl.com. And I love it because you can just open this book and just find within it just something you can connect with quite easily, you know. And I think just reading a little bit of something from these teachings, I mean, it just, for example, when things go wrong in our life and we encounter difficult situations, we tend to regard the situation itself as our problem, but in reality, whatever problems we experience come from the mind. So this is what we've been looking at. And it talks a lot more there, and it's just stop and thinking about it and thinking, well, if I'm always believing that suffering and happiness are out there and I've just got to find it, I've got to find the thing that's going to make me happy, I've got to get away from the thing that's causing my suffering, it's just going to be exhausting, and it's not possible because I can never know what's going to happen or what's around the corner. But if actually happiness and suffering are my mind, then that's something I have power to do something about. And so I think even if you just read a little bit and think about it and come to a conclusion in our own mind about it and then hold that, we're starting to work with, it's basically just about changing our attitude. It's like beginning through meditation to change our attitude from negative to positive. But positive doesn't mean just sort of everything's great, I'm great, everything's wonderful, you know. It's a deep wisdom that understands difficult things that are difficult for us to look at and understand, but that if we don't, we can never actually, through that honesty, start to let go of deep-rooted unhappiness and negative attitudes.
Yeah, and I think it's just a lot of it's perception as well, because we always try to label things as bad and good, and actually it's usually the things that we would perceive as bad that lead to the most good things. So it's this dark and light are always having this dance. So if we can just, when something that we perceive bad happens, we can go, oh, something is probably positive is going to come from this situation, or something that I'm going to learn has come from this situation. Then you hope, if you then have that mindset, then you have kids and bring them up that there isn't really this vast difference. Oh, that's bad, that's good. It's just, there's just things that are occurring, and it's what attention you give that and what label you give that. So what gives it good or bad energy?
Yeah, definitely. And it is, like you say, it's like we can really grow through the difficulties. And I think it's like when we start to understand, I mean, it's for us what we want to understand, but for myself, whenever I get an unpleasant feeling or I'm in a difficult situation, I try to recognize that all that's happening is something's ripening in my mind because of something I did in the past. So because of karma, it's like I engage in actions, I experience effects, and not necessarily at the same time. So then if I don't grasp at that horrible, why do I feel like this? Or if I don't, why is this happening? If instead it just think, it's just a bit of bad weather, it will pass, and I've just got to weather the storm and not get too pulled down, but unhappy about it, and see that, like you said, it's like suffering has good qualities, that some good can come from this, and that if I can come through this with the correct attitude, the most beneficial attitude, and let go of it, then actually I'll never experience that same level again, because I've changed. And I think then for me, when sometimes talk with people, and I just think I can just see I'm happier. Over these last 20 years, I've just become happier. It's just a progression, and that is just coming through my study and my practice. And obviously we pray. We have lots of different prayers to lots of different Buddhas and practices and empowerments, and I can see that I'm lighter, happier, and difficulties are not so difficult. And I think for me that's always a measurement that my practice is working, and that every day, I don't know about you, but for me every day, if I don't do my meditation first thing in the morning, I can tell. In the day I can tell. And it's if I start my day with my practice and I try to keep my practice there, it really helps. We need it. We need, I'm saying that, but I'm not, obviously we've all got to decide, but we need to become spiritual practitioners. Everybody does. And it doesn't mean, set in a faith, but everybody needs to be a spiritual practitioner, which means we all need to start working with our mind and changing our mind, and stop waiting for things to get better, or stop waiting for happiness to just arrive, because happiness is, we have the potential for happiness, which is inner peace within our mind. But if we don't, through spiritual practice, begin to develop that, then it's not just, it can't just happen.
There's loads of paths, and it's cultivating that practice, cultivating that awakening, that control of the mind, to get out of the monkey mind. And in yoga we call it chitta vritti niyodhara. It's just like the fluctuations of the mind, whether they're positive or negative. And what I friends of mine say, what can I do? I'm like, just try stuff. Just go to things and see which one resonates. You might have to try 50 things, but eventually something. This teacher resonates with me. I want to learn from this teacher. And for me as well, it's about always getting. I want lots of teachers, because there's somebody I'll think that's not a good teacher, but there might be some bit of wisdom that they'll give me. Or like you say, just talking to people in the street, and someone will say something really profound, and you're like, that's been waiting for me, that to kind of drop in.
Yeah, definitely. I think I mean, I would definitely say we need to find a path. And like you say, it's like try different, but for me it feels like we do need to find a path that we follow. Otherwise what happens is we're taking a bit from here and a bit from there, and it can get very confusing. But it's like once we find our path that we follow and our teacher that we follow, then I think everything becomes, for me, everything I see as my spiritual guide. So I see my teacher in everything, in every person, every situation. Like you say, it means you can learn from everyone and anything. And then the spiritual path isn't something that's here and your daily life is here. It's like your daily life and your spiritual path become one. It's just like, I always remember once Geshe did this, your daily life and your spiritual practice, and I find it really powerful, just that idea of it just becomes one. So whether you're at work, with your family, on holiday, down the pub, or have it, or in the Buddhist Centre, you can be practicing patience, you can be wishing to let go of your anger, you can be identifying your uncontrolled desire for things. You can be definitely, biggest practice, cherishing others, wishing others, thinking they're important and wishing them to be happy, because we have a default, I'm important, my happiness, and that's all our pain. So it's like in daily life we can choose to do that. It's like, okay, this week everyone I meet, I'm going to think you're important, your happiness matters. And just that thought, if we start to go deeper with it, will impact how we act with others. And then everything becomes our teacher,
So I think what I want to know now is a little bit more about your background before you came into the Kadampa, into Buddhism. A little bit about your upbringing, and then what was causing you these stresses that led to you to seek, well, we couldn't call them gifts, they don't have to be called stresses, because they led you to the...
They didn't feel like it then.
No, they don't at the time.
They definitely didn't feel like gifts then, but they did afterwards. But so I grew up in Cumbria, and I trained in... I was very into computers from a young age and technology, and so I went off to university, studied computers. I went into the computer industry. You can starting to get a feeling where the stress came from. I went into the computer industry, and I was trying to find this life. I was trying to. For me, I mean, this is just my own personal, but for me. I had this idea at that time in the early mid-90s. It's like, I was going to get my job and then get the partner and then settle down, and then everything was going to be great and life was going to be great. And it seemed to be everything was going well, computer industry. And I went to live in America and work in the computer industry over there. And then... I think I just started being aware that the people around me weren't happy that I worked with, that I was spending all of my time trying to just fix things and make them work. It was just like my job was just try and fix this, and then this would go wrong, and trying to fix this. And I started to realize my whole life was just about constantly shifting things and changing things and trying to get things working. And I was quite tired, and I was making quite a bit of money, but that was sat in the bank because I had nothing, no time to do anything with anything. And so just started getting this sense that my life is just about... And then I looked around me and I'm like, oh, so's everyone else's. And I'd be in the morning in my car, traffic, to get to work. I worked on one of the islands near Seattle, and I'd sort of in my car, and we're all going along in our car. And I don't know, I think something in me just started to, little bell, like a little alarm bell, so this isn't happiness. This isn't right. And then I just made friends with this group, and one of them said, I've got this friend who does meditation. Should we go and try some meditation? I'd always wanted to try something and never got around to it. And so we started going along to these meditation classes. And, it's interesting because one thing is like we have potentials, and we never know what causes can come together and what can happen. And I obviously had something, when I started meditating, something quite quickly connected in my mind that I just wanted to do it. So I'd be in the car, in the traffic, meditating, and I'd have my eyes open because obviously best not to close my eyes. But I'd just concentrate on everything, and then I'd sit at my desk and everyone thought I was working. But if I was getting stressed, I'd just start focusing on the sensation of my breath at the edge of the nostrils, and then just trying to relax. And I just started finding that really working and really helping, and I started to relax a bit. And as I relaxed, and I started to have conversations with a few other people at work, and I found there were spiritual people I worked with. So as well as spiritual people I was starting to spend time with and living with, I found that there were spiritual people at work. And the funny thing is that at that time there was a Buddhist centre, and we all kept saying, let's go to the Buddhist centre, let's go to the Buddhist centre. And we never went to the Buddhist centre. And it was a Kadampa Buddhist Centre, and Geshe was over there at that time teaching, but I had no connection at that time to that tradition. So I just decided to leave that job. For me, it just, I couldn't make it work with what I wanted to do and what I wanted to learn. So I decided to give up that job. Giving up that job, I no longer had a visa, so I had to come back to the UK. Then suddenly I realised, I've got some money in the bank. I've got money in the bank. I don't need to go back to work. I can travel. So I started travelling. I travelled in India, Nepal, and then I travelled in Europe and in Ireland as well, and in Scotland and and England, and not Wales. I only recently went to Wales, but anyway. So I just travelled a lot and started looking at different practices, different meditation, different methods, tried different traditions of Buddhism as well.
So would you say when you were travelling, you was like on a mission to find something?
I was looking for a guru. So I knew I was looking for a teacher.
Right, okay.
I went travelling looking for a teacher and a spiritual path, but trying all kinds of different things. And then I got to a point when I was in India that I realised that I'd already connected with something, which is I'd already been to a Kadampa class.
Right.
And so at that point I just came back.
You're looking all over the world, he's just down the road.
He was just down the road. That is exactly what happened.
That's how it usually happens, isn't it?
That is exactly. I was in India. I'm going to be really honest with you here. What happened? But I was in India, and I'd literally, I'd got this idea. I'm in India. I was like, going to find my guru, and so I'd started really connecting into the culture in India and trying to be part of a little bit sort of the environment I was living in at that time, and then I got a train somewhere, and when I got there it was really late at night, and a rickshaw driver, I really didn't, some things I really probably were a bit, you'd think that actually for a female on her own, probably a bit scary things to do, but anyway, it was about 2 a.m. I hadn't worked out any plan of where I was going. Just come off a train where I'd been packed on this train for 8 hours, and so this rickshaw driver just said, I'm just going to take you to a hotel. So just took me to this hotel, dropped me off. But I mean, it's so cheap. It was so cheap over there. It was a really nice hotel, and I never stayed. I would stay in the cheapest hostels, but it had room service. It had a bath, and it had. So I got into this hotel, and I had a bath, and I had room service, and and then I just was in this room, and I thought, I'm going home because my spiritual life needs to connect with my life, So at that time I thought, well, I've already met the teacher. The teacher is back, not only in the same country, but literally the same county. And at that point I just got a ticket and came back, and then just started. But it took years. I mean, I spent years of going to classes and then just working on my life and things, and until finally I just realized I needed to I'd again developed anxiety from trying to make my life work in the way I thought it should work, rather than relaxing and working with my life, sort of working in the direction that it was meant to. And so the anxiety built up because I felt out of control, because I couldn't make my life be what I thought it should be. And at that time I knew I needed to move into the centre. And as soon as I knew that I needed to move in, everything just went, and it was just really easy to do that. So
was that the moment when you were like, this is my life, I'm committed to this? Was there a eureka? Was there one specific moment, or was it that moment when you decided that you was going to move in, or was it still not decided then that this was going to be your life?
Yeah, I think there was a few moments like that. I think there was one moment, like the summer before I moved in, when I walked into the temple and I just felt this real connection with Geshe. And then I think when I went to look at a room in the centre, there was a moment because something just really connected. There was like something about the room I was going to move into that really made sense. And then I think about 6 months to a year after, I decided to take refuge. So taking refuge in Buddhism basically means I decided I was going to be a Buddhist for the rest of my life. So for me, that was such a big step, because I'd not been religious and so for me, I think that as well, because realizing that's what I wanted to do. And then the next step, I decided to take another set of vows, which are called the Pratimoksha vows, where you give up drinking, you don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, you don't engage in sexual misconduct, and you give up alcohol and drugs and things. And I think for me that again was a big step, because I'd always liked a drink of alcohol, a glass of wine or a beer, and so to finally decide I didn't want to do that anymore. I think that as well. And then the next one was obviously when I decided, years after that, suddenly realised that I was getting ordained.
Okay.
So I think it was like that gradual, but for me it was very gradual, because people have always said to me, was it a big getting ordained? Was it like, because obviously you shave your head, you put on robes, and
so like, before you get ordained, you still kind of got whatever haircut you want, and just like just as normal. I mean, you can take vows that you focus on internally, but outwardly, just the same. So then deciding to get ordained, that all changes. You give up your name, you change how you look, and you change how you act, and obviously shaving off my hair. So I think people always say, oh, was that quite a big... And it's like, well, no, because I was already at that point. I was there. It was, for me, it was just actually when I got ordained, I was like coming home. It was just like coming home. Yeah, it felt like all that fighting I'd done. For me, and this is just a personal, people don't have to get ordained if they're Buddhist, but for me it just felt like, it just, all that fighting I'd been doing, it just like fell away, because it was, So it's kind of like these three big steps towards, ordained's like the third step.
And then that's it for me. I think that then, with ordination, my understanding was that now I'm happy to go anywhere, do anything for Geshe. You know, I just,
And was which one was the most daunting, or was there maybe daunting didn't come into it? You know, was there any one of those steps where you was like, you know, like getting married? Like, I'm supposed to be doing this. Do I want to make this commitment?
Yeah. I think I'm not sure actually, because I'm very much a person that I have to be sure. when I do something. So I think there wasn't any doubt. You know, it's like, I think if there had been doubt, I would have made myself wait. I would have stayed back. So I don't think, nothing felt daunting. I think everything, but I think daunting probably before, a little bit before looking at it. But at the time, I think it was just, it was all just quite natural.
Everything felt like you was ready for each one.
Each step, it just felt ready.
And when you look back, do you sort of, what's your perspective in terms of, do you feel like you was always going to be a nun, and these things happened that led you there, but that was always your destiny?
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I loved the sound of music when I was a child. I don't know. I think that
that was it.
Sorry.
It's programmed. You got the program in.
I think I was always quite I don't know. I think if I look back when I was in, even I would say my mid-20s, if I looked and someone told me you're going to be a nun, I would have really laughed. It would have been ridiculous. You know, my life then. And that idea of, so it isn't something, I never would have. No, I mean, I knew nothing about Buddhism until my mid to late 20s. I can remember this one time I was walking around this cemetery at night, walking the dogs with a friend, and I just remember saying, I feel like, almost like I've woken up from something. It's just like some wisdom had come in for me into my mind of, you know, that actually I don't have to just, you know, sort of go along this programmed route that I've been going along. And I'm not talking about anyone else. I don't want anything I'm saying, anyone to feel that I'm saying anything about anyone else. It's a personal. But for me, I felt like I suddenly realized I don't need to be finding happiness in those external things. I can't keep trying to do that. And I think that was quite a big moment, just happiness isn't out there. It's something.
An inside job.
That's it. It's an inside job. It's something that I've got to work on developing, and it goes way beyond. It's like I'm constantly still, you know. It's like I love it because it's like inner peace isn't just a one thing. It's like levels of inner peace, and it's like I'm just working on developing inner peace, and it's a long journey, and it's going to lead to just this incredible ability to maintain a peaceful, happy mind all the time, regardless of external conditions, and to work with external conditions from that peaceful space. You know, because I think another thing, sometimes people can feel like Buddhists, you're sort of laid back and you don't, you know.
You first.
Oh my goodness. I had that once, honestly. We had a festival.
No one could get through a door.
No one could get in the elevator. We had a festival in Los Angeles, and we were in a hotel, and it was before I got ordained. I mean, I was actually still fairly early on in my practice, and because we were all at this festival, and everyone's trying to get the elevator, the lift. And we're all stood there, and the door's open, and everyone's like, you first, you first, you first. The door's closed. And the elevator left.
You should just have to have a Buddhist wrangler at them events, just throw you all in the
Literally, the next elevator came, I just got in. I just wasn't having any of it. I'm just like, oh, for goodness. I think I even said, oh, for goodness sake. As it was before but it's just that recognition that, you know, wisdom is a clarity in your mind. It's a clarity in your mind that cuts through all the cloud and dirt. That means actually you can act quickly in the most beneficial way. So you're not looking and saying they're a bad person, they're a good person, so I get angry with them, and
or I'm going to be bad if I go first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just that sense of that, there's a problem here, and just that wisdom of helping to benefit everyone, not seeing you're bad, you're good, just seeing, there's a situation and everyone here is suffering, suffering because of their delusion of anger, suffering because they're experiencing this pain, and it's just like that wisdom can cut through when we've got that inner peace, and that's what I want. Definitely.
And do you think you can ever you can complete that?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think it's that's something for me that with Geshe, he says, I love this, he says, enlightenment is not far away, I promise you. You've just got to get to know your own mind. Yeah. It's just like it's right there. It's our nature, our potential. And so I think, and he says things like, if you practice cherishing others and abandoning our obsessive self-concern, our self-cherishing, he says, if we do this, he said, I guarantee that you will find lasting happiness and freedom from suffering. I will sign, you can sue me if I'm wrong, because he knows through his experience that actually it works. And I think that confidence from him, and knowing he's fully qualified and that the tradition is fully qualified, there's what's called, this is just what we understand, a blessing. It's a blessed. There's a blessing, which means that all the teachings and in all the centres, you receive blessings because, which means your mind transforms from a negative state to a positive state, an unpeaceful state to a peaceful state, because it's a pure lineage of teachings. And that's why if you go to a Kadampa Buddhist Centre, you won't find that we teach anything else. Now, sometimes people think that's a bit weird and a bit, because you won't find books on anything else other than from the new Kadampa Tradition and Geshe Kelsang Gyatso. But the reason for that is simply because this is what we study and this is what we practice, and therefore this is the confidence, and these are at the centres of this tradition. So when people come here, that's what they're getting. So of course we can go anywhere we want to and study anything we want to. We all have choice. But it's just, I think that's something I really liked as well, is that it was very clear, that what I was getting, there's no space for my own confusion, which I have enough of anyway. It's like it was just very, very clear, and then I have choice, and I have choice whether I don't know what I take and what I don't take from it as well. So
And how does it work in terms of what's the aim in terms of people coming to the centre? Is the aim to like indoctrinate them all, or is the aim to just at least give them a little piece of wisdom that will make their suffering be reduced?
Yeah.
What is it?
That I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not here to convince. I always say this at classes when people come to class, I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. I just share the teachings of the new Kadampa tradition as presented by Venerable Geshe, and it's for others to take what they take from it. But all I wish is that, like I found, is that we all find the jewels, the little bit of jewels that make our life, so make our daily life a little bit better, that we get a little bit more wisdom to deal with situations. And so, for example, one person told me, she said, I've been coming for a while, and she said every night that I come to this class, I go home and my partner has not done the washing up and I get angry. So I've been here and they've just sat at home and they haven't done the washing up and I get angry. And they said last week I went home, they hadn't done the washing up and I didn't get angry. And I said, I just went in and I said hi to them and they asked me what I'd done and I just told them and I was quite happy. And then they said all of a sudden, they said, oh, I haven't done that washing up, and they got up and did it. And they said, whereas the previous weeks I get angry, they haven't done it, then we have an argument, and they said, so I can see my mind has changed. And I love that. And then there's the other part of it. So that's finding our own little changes in our daily life that benefit us and benefit other people.
That seems so simple and so basic and such a sort of everyday occurrence.
Exactly, but
massive.
It's massive because if you start to see you can do it in that situation, so then you do it in other situations and bigger situations, and that person starts to see. And maybe if there's children in that environment, even a pet, in that environment, it's like for everyone there's some benefit and everything begins to change. But then from that, I also start to see that there are some people who find they want to learn more about the prayers and about the practices and they want to go deeper and they start coming to more, and then they want to start learning to become a teacher. So we train so people can, if they want to teach, we train so that we can become
pulling them in for an
18-month
contract on the first night or anything.
No, not at all.
Like the internet.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah, you've got to come for 2 years now.
Yeah, no, that's it.
You've got to buy yourself out.
Yeah, can you imagine? No one would ever come.
You'd get some people coming.
You would actually, and also a lot of times you find, sometimes I guess what we do is we sign up for something like a gym or something and then you never go. But know that, I would say, normally our classes are drop-in, but they're not at the moment. But the only reason for that is because at the moment we can only have 11 or 12 people in person. Normally we can have 40, 50. And we get fully booked at that, so people have to book online each week. But every class, people can come along to one, and if they find benefit, they can come back. If they don't, they don't have to. There's nothing, the whole point of Kadampa Buddhism is that, for me, this is why I got involved, because this is what I liked, is that it's my choice, and it's about my mind. And I've got to decide what I want to do and not want to do, and how I want to connect. And I think it's just, we just have to find for ourselves if it's something that we like.
I think that's what I like a lot about it, is there's so many people in it that weren't born into it. I think that's, for me, that's like, okay, so that person's found their calling, not because my mum was a Catholic or whatever, my dad was Protestant, whatever it was. It's like you've gone out, you've experienced, and you've found something that resonates with your own heart, and that's who can deny you of that.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's because people often say to me, so are you family Buddhist? I'm like, oh no, definitely not. I mean, my family, they're amazing because they fully, they love it. They love what I do. They don't go, my mum, well, they have gone to classes, but they're not fully involved, but they're fully behind it. But no, this is definitely, and that's, I think, what makes the real depth and strength of it, and it really functions because it's just daily life. It's all just, I remember going along to the first few teachings. The first one maybe not so much because I'd gone in a bit deep, but all the other teachings after it's like, what on earth is this about? It was very profound teachings on emptiness, and it was just like really, much. It was, I must admit, I came out of it, I didn't understand, because it was all about how, if you look for your body, you can't find it, and it was all a bit like, okay. But
I'm a tripping.
I know. But I have to say, I came out of it and I thought, there's something about this. Because that was weird. Yeah. As in, it was so different to anything I'd ever heard before. I thought, there's got to be something about this. It did connect. But then every teaching after that, like you said when you went, and it's about anger, and you just think, gosh, this is just about taking something into my daily life that is going to help me and help others, which is just a different thought, a different attitude, a different quality in my mind that is really going to benefit. I mean, for example, for me, it's just that recognition that happiness isn't a new thing. You know, it's like, if we use this example sometimes that, you know, you go shopping and you want that, you know, new jumper, and you're like, you know, I've got to have that new jumper, as if that's going to make me happy. If I have that new jumper, that's all I want. So, you know, and you get it. And then it's like, yeah, but if that jumper was happiness, it means if you're feeling a bit miserable, all you need to do is put your jumper on, and you're happy. And if your friend's a bit miserable, you can lend them your jumper, because obviously that jumper is the cause of happiness. And it's that kind of thing that is fun to think about, because it's like, oh yeah, a jumper, a cause of happiness. But when you look at it really with wisdom, you start to see, oh, actually, I can get the jumper. Of course I can. But don't believe that that jumper is happiness, because otherwise we're just, oh, then that's happiness. Oh, then that's happiness. And oh, then that's happiness. And then the credit card bill comes and it's like, that's not happiness, you know. And yet it's like, if we recognize happiness is, the real source of happiness is inner peace, then we can take that anywhere with us. You know, we can't buy that in a shop.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's just the inner work.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful moment where to finish the conversation, to finish the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been fun and very informative, and I'm sure the viewers will get a lot from it, and the listeners will get a lot from it. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom. And just before we kind of wrap it up, where can people find out more about Kadampa Buddhism?
Oh, yeah, so in Manchester, our website is kmcmanchester.org, and all of our classes and activities are on there. We have a centre in Chorlton, and we have a centre in the city. And then also, if you want to find out about Kadampa Buddhism, our main website is kadampa.org. Yeah. And then also, because Manjushri Centre is only an hour and a half away, and it is a touristy place. It has the temple and the gardens, and it's a big old manor house, and that you can find out about at manjushri.org. Okay.
If you can get yourself on a course there, it's banging. You have the best sleeps. The energy in the space is crazy, and hopefully you'll get some teachings as well.
Some teachings,
change your life
good
in a
food.
positive way. Yeah, the food's awesome, and just nice conversations, nice people to chat to.
Yeah.
And is there are any of the classes on Zoom or anything at the moment? Is there any online stuff for people who, you know, you've only got 11 people in the space? Is there the opportunity for more people to come to the teaching?
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing. We can do that. So all of our classes, most of our classes are online. Yeah. So we do a lunchtime meditation every day, Monday to Friday, Tuesday evening, Thursday evening, Friday morning, and Saturday morning, and Sunday afternoon. All of those classes you can attend. Most of those classes in person. You can book in person, but you can also attend online. And it's really easy with Zoom. You just send the link, and then you just click on it, and you might have, it'll tell you what to do. But we have a good team as well that help to get onto that. So it's quite easy to do, and it's all on the website how to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank
so if
you.
you're feeling a little bit, don't know what you're doing with your life, go and check out some of the teachings, and hopefully something will resonate and help you on your path. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beautiful evening.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Deal is a Healer podcast. Please stay tuned for more episodes of transformation, of metamorphosis, of people becoming the most beautiful version of themselves and teaching you, the listeners, how to become the most beautiful version of yourself. So if you want all that information, all that knowledge, all these amazing guests that I've got on my show, please subscribe. There's a subscribe button somewhere on this screen, so please just link onto that. You'll get a notification straight away of any new episodes, and I promise you I've got epic guests coming up, so please stay tuned. If you want to know anything else about the Dealer to Healer movement, of what I've got going on, about my links to the book, links to my website, links to my music, everything, please go in the description below. It's just down there somewhere. You just hit description and everything, it'll tell you everything. So nice one, have a beautiful day, take it easy, and remember, please subscribe, that would be amazing. Peace.